Hello everyone and welcome back to the VCO Esports studio. It's been a while, but we are delighted to be back. And when we have been busy, just this past weekend, we kicked off the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship powered by VCO. GTDs and touring cars went racing, and we're talking to the winner of the touring car category today. Corentin Guinez, part of the SimRC team, joins us, and it was a busy weekend for you, Corentin, not just competing in the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship, but also racing in the 24-hour series esports. Two different cars, two different tracks, but two podiums and one win. You must be delighted after what was a very busy weekend.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, it wasn't easy to focus on both races because I had to drive two different cars, but yeah, we made it. I'm mainly focused on Neo because I'm doing mainly this championship with Kieran usually, and Kieran focused a bit more on Road Atlanta because he's doing data packs with Coach Dave Academy on Road Atlanta, so it was a bit easier for me to just focus on Neo. But we drove with WTs as well on the Road Atlanta, so I had a bit of practice with the Veloster instead of the Elantra, but it went really well, I think.
Corentin, you have become one of the finest that TCR has to offer on iRacing, and 2022 is best exemplified that you won the iRacing Roar before the 2.4-hour race at Daytona, and then after that, of course, the Hyundai Any Global Festival was a lockout of the podium for Core Sim Racing when you finished second behind Kieran, and then moving forces with Kieran to SimRC, you bolstered their TCR program. But let's go back in time before we talk about the present. How did you get started in sim racing, and what are your first memories? Because you've been part of quite a few major teams.
If I can remember, I think I started in 2017. I guess it was on PS4, yeah, on Xbox as well, and yeah, I drove AC the first one, yeah, the first AC, and then I moved a bit on PC. I went on Race Room, and then I discovered iRacing on YouTube, and I've just fall in love with it. I saw the first race was Le Mans, and when I saw that you could do just 24 hours of Le Mans on the sim, I just wanted to go there. And yeah, I started first with controllers, and then I went on different wheels. Started with Master, and then now I have this direct drive. But yeah, that was some great experience to get started. I guess it's not too bad to start with this games. But yeah, I really loved it. And when you're a fan of motorsport, it's very good to play some sim racing.
Let's talk about your love of motorsports then, because I think you're right. At the very least, you're learning racecraft, even if you're on a controller on some of the console games. But is motorsports a family passion? How exactly did you fall in love with racing?
My dad went to Le Mans. It was in the 80s, if I'm right, and he's a big fan of motorsports. Like he has in his room a lot of cars, mainly Porsche. So I guess that's why I'm fan of Porsche now. But yeah, I watched F1 cars when I was young with him as well. So I guess it came from there for sure.
In terms then of joining onto the PC and moving forward from there, as you developed, you started with HM Engineering before moving over to Core Sim Racing, and then finally making the step to SimRC slash Team 75 Bernard by SimRC. What's the one thing that you've taken from each of the teams, Corentin, that's helped you along the way as you've just gotten faster and faster and more consistent?
I think you always learn from people. Like you always have more experienced people, and it's the case in every team. You always drive with quickest drivers, so you can always learn from them. I think it's really interesting to have also the different way to approach a race. Some people put more practice, some people put a bit less, but I think it's a bit more interesting to see how is it practice, the way they're looking at the races, what they're doing before the races, looking at the strategy, looking at the different datas. And yeah, of course, you always learn from people. Even the slowest people, you can still learn from them because they have a different approach to the race. Sometimes they have a better racecraft than you. Even if you're quicker, it doesn't mean you have the great racecraft. So yeah, yeah, it's just interesting to learn from the people. And yeah, I think the fact that I drove in great teams like Prologue, I started with Prologue, then I went to HM Engineering, and then I moved to Core, which is I guess it was one of the best sim racing team when I was in the team and even before. So yeah, it's just a great experience to get to join these teams.
You're still a very young chap, Corentin, but as you look at the experience that you've accumulated over these teams as well, what stands out most to you as that moment when you thought, oh, you know, I can do pretty well? Because this Daytona 2.4 win in January was your first iRacing special event win, but you've had many successes in the years previously.
Yeah, I think it's because of the experience, and also I think it's because I focused mainly on one kind of car. I'm not sure if you can really be successful. Some people can be successful on driving different cars, but I choose to drive the TCR mainly because I like these cars. It's always close racing, close fight, and yeah, I'm just used to it now. So I guess it's because we won many races with Kieran. It's because we have like I'm driving TCR from now 2.5 year with the RS3 first. So yeah, I think it comes from the fact that we have a lot of experience. Also, we have quite a good knowledge with their cars. So yeah, I guess it's come from there for sure.
In terms of this focus on TCR, I find it interesting that you think that's been a key to your success because you talked earlier about how many different platforms, controller inputs, and whatnot that you kind of went through. Before you started focusing then on TCR, where were you kind of at a competitive sense? What cars are you competing in, and where were you in terms of mindset of what you wanted to do in sim racing?
I've done a lot of Cup car before when it was the 991. I really loved it until the 19 S4. Then they changed the car and I didn't really like it. But yeah, I drove a lot of Cup car. I really loved it. I think it's one of the main car I drove. And then yeah, I moved to TCR. I've done some GTE as well, some IMSA, and then yeah, of course, I've done my first endurance races with Exile Racing Team, which was my first team. So yeah, it was just great to drive different cars. But yeah, like I said, I just fell in love with TCR. I always take pleasure when I drive these cars. But yeah, the Cup car is also very good, and I hope I can do some Cup cars in the future again.
So let's talk a little bit about TCR then for a moment, Carrington, because of course for the longest time it was just that Audi RS3 LMS, and while there are a lot of drivers that flocked to the car initially as the years went on, the participation tended to die off. You, of course, were one of those that stuck around, and now it's seeing a breath of fresh life with the multiple Hyundais and Hondas joining the forces on iRacing. What's it like now for you, especially this past weekend, for example? We talked about two races at two different tracks, but you had to switch from the Honda to the Hyundai. How easy is it for you to switch between those two machines?
I think the fact is that we're making data packs on the STCRs with Coach Chef Academy, so I guess it helps a lot. We are weekly doing driving on these different cars, and yeah, we also need to put a lot of practice. Like you cannot get great results without putting some time in practice. That's for sure, and that's the truth for any cars. But yeah, it's not a very different way to drive the cars. Of course, you have to use a different driving style with the Veloster and also with the Elantra, even if it's quite the same car. But yeah, of course, you are just getting used to it by driving this car. So I guess it's just with the practice and the experience we have that we're able to put maybe better lap times or having a bit more success, I would say.
So you came second in the 24-hour series esports race, but of course came out on top in the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. Let's talk a little bit about round number one at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. You must be intimately familiar with being the slower class in multi-class chaos, but what was it like for you experiencing this series for the very first time as the GTDs tried to blow their way past you at the tight and twisty Road Atlanta?
I think it was a bit more difficult for Kieran because I didn't make the start. But yeah, it was a bit tricky. I mean, I think it's one of the trickiest track for the multi-class, and especially with us with the touring car, because the different speed is so insane with the GTDs. So we had to just look at the mirrors every corner. Um, but yeah, the good thing is that we have been able to make the gap a bit during the race. I think the great strategy decided by Kieran before the race has been the key for us to pull away. And then it was a bit easier for me because when I took the car, I had 11 seconds gap, if I remember. So I just tried to chill a bit, just not don't take any risks. It was just not necessary, and I've been able to pull away with that. So yeah, I think also because we're just used to traffic as well with that this year. We've done 3 seasons in Neo, so we have quite a lot of experience. Of course, first season hasn't been wasn't very good for us. We've done many mistakes, but I think you improve with the time. The second season we won it. So yeah, I guess it's with the experience that we have been able to manage that race pretty well, even if at the end it was a bit tricky with the rejoin. But yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that, right? One of the benefits of being with the GTD cars is this TCR goes to the old damage model where significant contacts are punished less. And there was the moment where Jamie Fluke unsafely rejoined the track and took out Kieran with about 10, 20 minutes to go. And then there were nervy moments as he had to try and nurse the car across the line. What exactly was going through your minds and on the team radio when that moment happened? Because it was totally out of your control.
Yeah, it was just painful to watch because I Kieran had nothing to do on this one. I couldn't do anything my side as well. And yeah, I think the first reaction was that I was completely shocked about this. To be honest, like I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and the frustration as well. Like when you manage that race so well, like we've done, maybe 20, 18 seconds in front of P2. That was just so crazy to leave this. And then I was so scared of getting the mid ball, but we didn't get mid ball. I don't know why, because I guess it's because the car just hit the fence from the front, so maybe that's why. But yeah, and Kieran was really scared at the end, but I just told him, mate, no worries, we have the gap. The car is fine, no mid ball, so just keep going and we will be fine. And yeah, we got this. So, but yeah, it was so scary.
I think probably what was most shocking was the fact that it was Jamie Fluke in particular, who is definitely not the type of driver you would expect to see that. You've mentioned a couple of times so far today your work with the Coach Dave Academy, so let's talk a little bit about that, because I always say that being a world championship, a top level driver, is not just about going fast, it's about understanding the car and understanding how you can make it go faster. And there's no better way than with the kind of work that you and Kieran do on a week to week basis, building setups for the Coach Dave Academy.
Yeah, that's insane. Like when I got this opportunity to do it, and also thanks to David Perel and James Parker for giving me this opportunity, by the way. Yeah, that's so great. Like being able to work in such a professional company is just insane. I'm managing GT4. Karen is doing a bit of TCR and G3 as well. I'm doing one TCR. And yeah, it's very cool to be able to drive these cars. We have a bit of experience with each cars. I've done a bit of GT4 in the past. I've been part of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge GT4. That was in 2019, if I'm right. And yeah, of course, this year we are used to it. So yeah, it's make it easy. And yeah, we've worked a lot on the setup. So yeah, of course, the work is a bit easier. We can give some advice to the engineer we're working with sometimes, because we are doing a lot of testing. So sometimes we found some good clicks. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to work on the in sim racing. Like it's a bit of a dream come true because you always dream to work on your passion, and that's basically what we are doing with Kieran. So it's just amazing.
And it, like you said, it's not just you that builds these setups. You got support and help behind the scenes. Just how much fun is it when you do some of those live sessions, working with the engineer behind the scenes to try and dial in the car to go as fast as possible?
Yeah, I like live session, but sometimes I'm a bit frustrated, and you can see that in the on the stream. So it's not it's not really cool. But yeah, it's very good to do that because I think sometimes you don't know what the guys are doing behind the scenes on the different setup shops. And I think Coach Dev Academy is giving the opportunity to the subscriber to see what we're doing with the cars, what we're changing on the cars on the different tracks. Sometimes you need a different setting because of the track is as long straight, for example, or it is a smaller track with more corners. So it's very interesting to do that, I guess. And yeah, it gives the opportunity to the people to look what we are doing, which is good. At least they know what they are paying for. I would say. So yeah, that's a very good concept for me.
You're a young driver, 21 years old. What are your goals and ambitions for sim racing? Because, of course, we're now at a time when there are opportunities for drivers to make a full-time career within sim racing. But, of course, it's not for everyone. What are your viewpoints and what are your thoughts moving forward in the sim racing space?
Yeah, first I want to keep doing sim racing because it's just my passion. I mean, my first passion is motorsports, but yeah, motorsports is a bit expensive, of course. But yeah, of course, I want to keep doing sim racing, and yeah, if I have the opportunity one day to do even some testings, like I'm not really asking for a race, even if it's happens some one day, I would be just grateful. But yeah, I'm just happy that just to do sim racing, I can basically not live from my passion, but I can at least having some revenue from it, which is very good. And yeah, if one day I can get the opportunity to have a drive on a track with a real race car, it would be great. I've done some. It was 991 GT3 on a racetrack, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, I guess with a true race car, we'll enjoy it even more. But yeah, that's great. Sim racing is already really good. So yeah, I hope I can keep going. I hope I can still get great results. I guess we can, with the practice and etc. And yeah, I would be very happy to get one day that chance to have a real ride.
And in some ways, right, it's come full circle. You talk about your father's love of Porsches, and now, of course, SimRC partnered up with Team 75 Bernard by SimRC. And I do think you've had the chance to drive the Spider-Man Porsche 911 GT3R this season in some of the iRacing special events. Let's talk a little bit about that. How cool is it as a sim racer to be partnered up with a real-world team, and a real-world team with so much history behind it?
Yeah, that's really cool. Like it gives them, I think, it gives more visibility to the esports team. Of course, being able to also be partnered with such a great team like Team 75 is so cool. Maybe I'm gonna have chance one day to look at to watch them on track. That would be great. And yeah, it's just insane. Like being able to just drive the car with the livery of the DTM car on iRacing is so cool as well. Um, Also, Dylan Pereira is also part of the team, which is a real driver. So yeah, it's also really cool to have the feedback from the real drivers in the esports team. I guess it helps to have their experience, even if it's more a real experience. But yeah, it's very cool to be linked to the real world.
I'm just saying, if Timo is listening, if you win the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship, maybe you can ask for at least a test day in one of their cars.
Yeah, please.
So
That
let's
would be
talk
great.
about the
Yeah.
rest. Yeah, let's talk about the rest of this IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship season, because you said Road Atlanta is going to be tough for traffic, but I think this Sunday we have the toughest track for traffic when we head to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, because after that it's relatively easy. We go to Indianapolis and we go to Daytona. While yes, it will be crazy, it will be slightly easier to figure out. What are your expectations for this Sunday?
Quite the same with Road Atlanta. I don't think there is a better track for traffic. I guess most of the track can be a bit scary sometimes. Like Daytona, you have the bus stop, you have the turn one. So yeah, each track are a bit tricky. Of course, the first two are the most, I would say, with the corkscrew. That's the one I'm favoring a bit the most. But yeah, it should be fine. I mean, the main thing we said with Kieran before the race was to not take any bad risks. And especially because on with the TCR you have a big amount of draft, so you don't really need to take risk if you want to stay behind someone. So yeah, it's just about not taking too much risk. I think it's not worth it. We saw some touring car during the first race being swiped off the track. So yeah, you just need to be careful. Just watch your mirrors, what's the relative, and just do your job. Not take too much risk, and yeah, it should be fine. But yeah, I think each track are a bit tricky with traffic, so I'm not more scared on Laguna Seca that how I will be at Daytona, for example.
Interesting. I really, really enjoy that kind of insight. Before we let you go as well, Corentin, I want to kind of talk about the way that safety cars changes your thoughts about strategy in sim racing, because it's a unique thing that we don't really have in too many series. Of course, this IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship does have that. How exactly have you and Kieran talked about how that impacts your drive time and the way you plan out the stints?
Yeah, I think we didn't really talk about the safety car before the race, about the strategy. I think it's mainly something that you can decide when it happens. Like you cannot really expect a safety car at some point, even if you can maybe just think about of the safety car before the race. But yeah, it's just too tricky to expect, to be honest. But yeah, I think safety car is a very good thing. We were a bit lucky at the end of the race to not get a safety car because with the car being like 5 tenths slower, it would have been a bit. It would have been bad for us, but yeah, I think it's a very good thing to have safety cars. I think it's missing a bit on iRacing. We are just lucky to have them on the different leagues. But yeah, it would be great if they can add some safety car in the special events. I guess it can be a bit tricky to add them, but yeah, I think they can make it at some point. And yeah, it just gives more it just makes the race more interesting, I guess, because sometimes when you see the car being 30 seconds in front of P2 or of the pack, it's not really interesting. But yeah, I really like the fact that we have safety car in this series. Like for sure, we're gonna have interesting races. Like the next 3 races, I guess we're gonna have maybe one safety car. I hope we're gonna have, because it's gonna be cool to have to see that in the race. Even if I prefer to not be part of the crash if the safety car happened, but yeah, it would be great to have some safety car. Yeah.
I think we were all a little bit shocked we didn't get a safety car in round 1. Thank you so much for joining us, Corentin. Congratulations on the success this Sunday. It's going to continue to be busy for the rest of the year, and we wish you well for the rest of the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. That's going to wrap it up, though, today as we return to the VCO Esports studio. We have been out for a while, but we've been busy behind the scenes. Plenty more to talk about for the rest of 2022, but that is left in the future. We'll be back hopefully next week with another guest in the sim racing world as we continue our journey here on the VCO Esports studio. For now, though, do remember we can watch us live on the VCO Twitch. Catch us on your favorite podcast platforms after the fact. For everyone at VCO, for Mike Yao behind the scenes, and myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. For now, so long and race on.